Hey there, you're with SCAD Radio More Than Music. This is Sara.
And Raine.
And you are watching
Room Tone.
with Sara and Raine, the film and TV majors who talk about film and TV. So welcome to episode 1 of Room Tone. I'm Sara. I am a junior film and television major here at SCAD.
And I'm Raine. I am also a junior film and television major here at SCAD.
This is SCAD Radio's first video podcast, which is really cool if we can get some applause. Thank you. Room Tone is where you'll get your weekly dose of film and television discussion, debate, and dissection. We'll be putting out episodes each Friday on YouTube and SoundCloud. Hopefully you'll stick around with us as each episode will have a different topic or theme.
It's going to be really cool.
It's going to be really cool. Today we're talking about what?
The most underrated show of all time. Stranger Things.
Yeah. So if you don't know Stranger Things is a sci-fi series set in 1983 Hawkins, Indiana. When a young boy, Will Byers, mysteriously disappears, his friends search for him, and they uncover a secret government lab, a telekinetic girl, and ultimately an alternate dimension called the Upside Down. Think Alien, E.T., Altered States, Strange Encounters of the Third Kind.
Or any 80s movie ever. It's so packed with references. It's awesome.
It's very nostalgia-packed, and I think that that's what draws a lot of people towards it. If you do know Stranger Things, you may not know the story behind it. So the Montauk Project is described on Wikipedia as a conspiracy theory that alleges there were a series of United States government projects conducted at Camp Hero or Montauk Air Force Station in Montauk, New York, for the purpose of developing psychological warfare techniques and exotic research including time travel. This was a debunked conspiracy theory having to do with MK Ultra, which we now know is a very real and very illegal government human experimentation project that was conducted by the United States CIA. So the original pitch for this was called Montauk.
And if you've been in any sort of storytelling or screenwriting film class, you have read this script. And we are going to go over it again. But stick around. We have some cool stuff to say, I promise.
Yeah, I think I literally have to read this in like 2 weeks for my dramatic writing class.
Tea.
Am I going to reread it? As far as my professor knows, the answer is yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Stranger Things. We kind of have oriented this towards just the first episode here.
Yes, but I have been rewatching it, so there is that.
So there's a lot to say.
Who wants to go first?
I think you should.
Okay, all right. So it does open up the TV show with one of my favorite intros of like all time. We really go right in the middle of the action. I think a lot of it is kind of like flashbacks because they start us in the middle, but you know, that's how you get your audience interested. With like a scientist running through these hallways with these flashing lights, which I love, and that becomes like a signature in this series, which I also love. I think it's really cool. I haven't seen like strobe lighting used a lot in film and television, at least personally, and I thought it was very cool. And I also think it was interesting that they introduced the Demogorgon, but they never show his face or like his body. We don't see that like fully until the end of episode 2, and we see his body in episode 3.
Yeah.
So very cool.
Very cool.
A little similar to Montauk, but not completely, if you wanted to talk about that.
Yes. And I think that this is actually one of the more interesting differences between the original script for Montauk and what we ended up getting with Netflix's Stranger Things. Because with Montauk, it was a lot more gruesome. For example, the opening image is a scientist staggers out into the corridor. He's gasping for breath. A hazmat suit melts off his body. We can see some skin underneath. It is burned, shredded, and bloody. His entire left arm is missing.
Yes, it's very much an intro to a horror genre rather than sci-fi. They were definitely leaning towards that in the beginning.
Absolutely. It was gross. And like you said, we get this awesome sequence of like the scientist kind of like running in the show, and it's really cool because we watch him kind of like get away and get scooped up by the monster, and it's still like super scary and like fun, but it's not nearly as bold as the original idea. We had like beheadings in the original, which is
crazy. There's a lot of crazy, like very gruesome stuff in the script, I would say.
Yeah, I would say that that's probably like the worst. But what?
I would say what Steve did is kind of worse.
Oh, well, yeah. That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
But I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah.
So when we smoothly transition with the sound of a sprinkler to Mike's house, and they're playing D&D, which ends up being a reference for a lot of things well into the second season, which I think is very genius and not tapped into enough.
I agree.
Up until that point, because it was nerd stuff.
Yeah.
No one liked nerds.
I like nerds.
I think that nerds are great. I love D&D. Have I played it? No. If anyone would like to play it with me, please show me the ropes. Anyways, I think that they do a really good job introducing these characters in this first scene. I do not quite remember how they did it in the script, but especially with Will, because he has such limited screen time, they definitely took advantage of it and kind of used it to the best of their ability. They show that he's like brave and he's honest, and it's very cute. They're all so cute and young. It's a really great intro.
Yeah. I think specifically, the line stated later in the show about this moment is that Will could have cast protection last night, but he didn't. He played fireball. He could have played it safe, but he didn't. He put himself in danger to protect the party.
Exactly.
And I think it's very telling. This moment, you really get to dive into each of the characters in such like a subtle way that you don't even realize how much you're learning about them. And I think that's one thing that Stranger Things does even better than Montauk, and that's showing without telling. They don't tell you anything, to be honest. It's astounding.
It's awesome.
It's really great, and I think that's what sucks people into the show so easily.
Because you don't know what's happening. That's the best thing ever. I think that I miss that a lot with shows lately. It's very much, there's a lot of telling. I'm sick of it. I'm like, just trust me. I am smart. And so is everybody else watching. Like, I'm just saying. But yeah, it's so excellently done. And there is a foreshadowing with the lights flickering above Mike's house, which is also just genius little detail. There's so many that we will get to.
I will say about Will, one thing that I noticed, and that, I mean, most people have probably noticed, is the moment where they're rolling the die and then Mike gets interrupted by his mom, and when the boys find the die, they realize that he had only rolled a 7 when he needed to roll a 13. And the rest of the boys are like, did Mike see it? No? Well, then it was a 13. And before Will exits Mike's home, the Wheeler house, if you will, he stops and tells Mike it wasn't a 13. And I think that kind of shows his softness, compared to the other boys who were totally willing to lie in order to win.
Yes, his honesty, and also that's like a form of strength that he had. They had to kind of prove as to why this character would survive what he did.
Right.
With, again, very limited screen time, which is also shown, I mean, skipping ahead like a minute, then in the bike ride scene with Dustin, like the racing that they do, like he's determined, he's strong when he has motivation, and he's smart.
Yeah.
So love him.
Love Will.
Love Will. And
Love
also
Will.
their first line, that line together where Will is like vulnerable with Mike, definitely foreshadows the development of their relationship in future seasons.
I agree.
So, yeah, I'm getting lost. Okay. Here we go. I said, because we go into the scene with the Demogorgon chasing Will, and my one comment, to be honest, was just, I love when a night scene isn't literal blackness. We've been dealing with that a lot in our house. And we have to turn off every single light in order to see what's going on. And I just think it was very well lit, which made me feel very nice. And it was just nice to be able to see what's going on and like the details of where he is and like where he's running to. And obviously that was important because it's an introduction to the set that is like Will's house.
Yeah.
But it was just very refreshing. Again, the show was kind of refreshing to watch. But I did love that.
I do appreciate that, and I always thought that was such like a like an old person thing to complain about, was like, the movie's too dark, I can't see it. But like, I don't know if I'm just like unk.
No, now we're chopped and unk.
Now we're chopped and unk, and I can't see anything.
Yeah, it's difficult to see now, which is unfortunate. But we also, when Will is chasing, have to mention this thing that might have been an inconsistency that they turned into a plot point.
Okay.
Do you remember we discussed this?
I think I know where you're going.
Yeah, so when Will is chased into his house, like the door lock kind of slides open on its own. We assume it's like the telepathic like powers of the monster. But we never see this happen again with a Demogorgon.
Right.
This could have been an inconsistency. Maybe they were thinking that far ahead. I don't know if they were. I'm not sure. But they do end up saying or making a point that maybe this was a different monster than the Demogorgon, without getting too deep into spoilers, because we are just talking about the first episode. And I do think it's smart. I'm glad they took advantage of it. And you know what? Like, taking inspiration from your own like mistakes, great. I'll take it.
I mean, yeah. Tied in a little bow at the end.
Okay, so Will runs into his house. There's no one home. He realizes he's completely on his own. And rather than stand there and panic like I would at 12 years old, most certainly, I would be still with fright. So I would probably fall over. I don't know. But he runs into his shed where there's a gun. Again, we see this like bravery in this kid who can like, he's shaking so hard he can barely put the bullets in this gun. But it still shows like his just this like ability to be able to like survive in these really scary situations, which we really needed to see. Because otherwise you're like, how is that 12-year-old boy still alive?
He is resilient for his age.
They're hammering it home in the first 5 minutes that he's like a resourceful, smart kid. And I appreciate that. And I don't think you realize it at all until, you watch it for 7 times in a row,
Yeah, because of course, like, as an adult, I'm watching this and I'm like, oh yeah, that's totally what I would do in this situation, is like grab a freaking gun off the wall.
No.
But in reality, like at 12, I think I was still like crying when I couldn't see my mom in the grocery store anymore.
Yes, me too. I would get lost in Target all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
I would
bad.
like tears in my eyes.
Yeah. But Will eventually gets kidnapped, and then we get to Hopper's house.
Hopper's house.
Which is one of my favorite character introductions.
I love it so much. And this is something that has stuck with Stranger Things from its beginnings in Montauk, where it details the space around Hopper. Again, it is showing you because it refuses to tell you anything, and it's beautiful.
Exactly. We open on kind of like, I'm pretty sure it's a wider shot. I'm trying to remember, frame for frame, but I'm pretty sure we open on a wider shot. We show Hopper's trailer, and it's just covered in empty beer cans, empty pill bottles, full pill bottles. He wakes up and he smokes a cigarette for breakfast, and he like downs his pills with a beer.
My favorite.
And clearly he's doing really well. Like,
yes, that's what regular adjusted adults do. Is
exactly.
that not what you do
He's
in the morning?
clearly thriving.
Right.
So he kind of just has this sad vibe to him. I also have something to say about when he exits the trailer, but I want to hear your thoughts as a writer about this introduction.
I love this introduction. It is a masterful way of introducing a character. You know everything you need to know about him from looking at his house for 5 seconds. It's glorious production design and pre-planning.
And he doesn't say a word.
That is crazy. That is not something that happens very often.
Nope.
And it's very well thought out. You actually pointed out something that I've never noticed. And that was that when the news is playing on the TV.
Yes, this is what I was going to say. Yes.
Oh, then how about you take it away, girl?
Okay. So when Hopper leaves his trailer, this is just like an ode to the amount of detail and thought that went into this first season. It's actually astonishing. But Hopper leaves the TV on as he leaves his trailer because, again, he's doing really well. He's thriving.
Right.
So he leaves and there's the news playing, and this weather woman goes, well, you're gonna probably have to get your umbrellas out tonight, but here's Jim with the weather. And guess what happens later that night?
It rains.
Crazy. It's just a crazy little thing that, like, if you listen and watch, you're gonna notice. And it's just so crazy to me that I understand that everything is purposeful in film and television, of course. But when stuff like that happens, you're just like, oh my God. Like,
Yeah.
It's just every detail, and it's awesome.
It's very cool. And it's actually something that I hadn't noticed on my own before. And I think when you said that, I was like, yeah, right. Because it's like, it's a little too in my face for me not to have noticed that at this point. But
yes,
the storm itself is also super important to the story. Maybe even more so in the script. The storm is not just like any regular it's gonna rain tonight storm. It is this front that's been moving in past Hawkins' lab or Camp Hero, that has been caused by this rift that is under the building.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And that might be a detail that gets kind of lost if you're not reading action lines.
Yeah.
But the storm comes from the rift that's under the government agency that we will get to soon.
That's
because I'm
so
getting ahead of myself.
You are getting a little ahead of yourself. But I was like, I'm going to let her speak. She's got something nice to say. And I didn't know that. So,
spoilers.
So we also cut to, it's actually all of our character intros, our big ones. It's their morning routine. So we get kind of Jonathan and Joyce's intro. I think Jonathan's introduction is very important just because it's older sibling core. He has clearly stepped up to be what his mom needed, even if she didn't want him to do that. Literally I got this from she was like, where are my keys? And he was like, have you checked the couch? That's something my mom would do. You know what I mean? Like, that's, he's like, this is just like a really great little thing, at least to me. Maybe they weren't even thinking about it that deep, but like, I thought,
I think they are,
Yeah.
The original character description for Joyce is a little bit different than what we end up getting in Stranger Things. It reads, Joyce Byers, late 30s, races past. She wears a peach waitress uniform and too much makeup. She has a Long Island accent, which comes out even stronger when she curses. And she curses a lot. The original is not nearly as family friendly in that sense.
I think she like just says damn it a lot in the show.
Amongst others.
Yeah, there's definitely other stuff, but it's definitely a little bit more PG-13.
Yes.
The way that she swears. Not that the show was PG-13, but yeah, for sure. And he also, Jonathan said he took an extra shift because he figured that we could use the cash, like that kind of thing.
Right. Which I actually have something to say about.
Okay.
So, Jonathan in the original script actually was in the dark room late and was not working. So Jonathan in the original is in this dark room late rather than working for extra cash. And I think the change that they made for the show was a lot better because it emphasizes your point.
Yeah.
And like the lengths this teenage boy has to go to help his family. He's kind of the man of the house, you know? And being in a photo lab late and like pursuing like your hobby seems a little bit selfish when your brother just went missing.
Low-key rich kid shit.
Like, no, yeah, because like the alternative of him working like so that we can afford another boxed mac and cheese for the week is way different.
Yes. Yeah, very different. The only thing I have to say is this is our second intro into Nancy, because the first time we see her, she shuts the door in Dustin's face, which is crazy.
Right, and is originally Lucas's face.
Yes.
Originally, Lucas is the one that has a little crush on Nancy.
Yes.
They all have a little crush on Nancy.
They do, yeah. But, yeah, she shuts the door in Dustin's face, which is crazy to me because he's such a cutie pie.
Oh, he is.
Even at her age, I probably wouldn't have shut the door in his face.
No.
That's crazy. I would have just been like, no, I'm okay. Goodbye.
But that's kind of her thing. And I have a lot to say about Nancy. Is she's kind of just in like her like selfish teenage girl era, and that's true. That's okay.
It's true, and it is okay. But yeah, this is our second introduction to Nancy, and she's kind of talking with Barb about Steve. Steve, who we will discuss, I think, soon about how he behaves in Montauk.
Right.
But there is this little note that I said something about because it's definitely a picky thing, but he leaves a note in her locker that says, meet me in the bathroom. And I'm just thinking about the high school I went to, and there's 700 bathrooms. Which bathroom? You know what I mean? Maybe they have a bathroom that they make out in on a reg. Yeah. You know what I mean? But like, I was like,
well, in the original script, it actually says the girls' bathroom.
Oh.
Which is crazy because, Steve, why are you lurking in the girls' bathroom?
Well, maybe there isn't anyone in the girls' bathroom. Well, the girls' bathroom, it's empty. The girls' bathroom probably has more stalls.
True.
This is the thought, probably, I would think.
I don't know, but it's important enough for them to have written down in the Montauk pilot that it was the girls.
But they didn't execute it. Just saying. True. And I noticed. I noticed, guys.
Bathroom.
Yes. Do you want to talk about Steve in Montauk?
Montauk Steve is evil.
Mm-hmm.
We have Nancy and Barb arriving at Turtle Cove, arriving to the beach, looking for Steve, because that's their invite. And eventually he comes up right behind her and shoves her into a sand dune. Immediately no.
Yeah.
Immediately no.
Don't push me.
Don't push me into the sand.
Don't push me, period.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
Yeah.
I don't care where it is. Don't do that.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree. So they kind of run off on their own to do some grown-up stuff. Allegedly, because
it's not alleged.
Is it really grown-up stuff if it's non-consensual?
It's not alleged. It's very gray area stuff. It's gross. Bad read. I'm not going to read it out for you. No.
But let's just say there is no enthusiastic yes, which means it is a no.
Exactly.
And it's very weird. It leaves off on this really weird, morally gray area where you're not totally sure what happened, but where one line of action really could have made it obvious, and they decided to leave it up for interpretation.
Yeah. And this interaction in the show doesn't happen until episode 2.
And it's a lot different.
And it's super different. We were talking about the differences, which we could dive into momentarily if you would like.
I mean, let's do it.
Okay. So here's the main thing. Is when Steve and Nancy are Steve and Nancy jump in the pool. Doesn't matter how it happens. They jump in the pool in their clothes. They get out of the pool. Then Nancy and Steve go upstairs to change out of their wet clothes.
Right.
We naturally know where this is going to go. But our, for lack of a better word, enthusiastic yes comes from Nancy wanting Steve to see her vulnerable. You want to say it for me?
Vulnerable.
Thank you. Yeah. And she, I'm trying to keep it very PG here, but that's kind of the vibe. It's good vibe. It's very consensual, and it's a completely different scene. They're clearly both enjoying themselves, and it's just much easier to digest, that's for sure, at least.
Joe Keery Steve is beloved by many, but not as much as he is beloved by me. Joe Keery Steve, Stranger Things Steve.
Joe Keery hit her line.
Hit my line. Joe Keery, I'm free. I'm not. Why'd I say that?
No, I don't know.
I'm not. Joe Keery hit my line, but I'm gonna have to say
Joe
no.
Keery, be aware she does have a boyfriend, but
For now. Unless Joe Keery texts me.
Okay, moving on. Okay, so our second scene with Joyce comes up in the police department. We see Hopper try to eat a donut for breakfast, which is switched out by an apple, I believe, from his secretary.
Love her.
Yes, she's great. She's a wonderful side character, a wonderful example of making your side characters significant and not just having them there for no reason.
Yeah.
And he walks into his office and Joyce is already there. She's made her way into the chief's office.
She has something to say.
Because they could not hold her back.
No.
She was not going to be in that waiting room.
No.
So she's already in the office, and this is the start of us seeing Joyce's, insane determination. She says she's going to find her son, and I've never believed anyone more. So we get into this office, and Hopper is telling her, 99% of the time when a kid goes missing, they're with a family member or a friend. And right. Joyce is like, what about the one? And he's like, what? And she's like, what about the one time? Because he's my boy. He's different. And she's right. And apparently the one time is he's sucked into an alternate dimension and being chased by Demogorgon.
So if anything, I feel like it should be 98%.
Yeah, it should be 98.
Then it's 1% kidnappers, evil kidnappers,
right,
and then the other 1% is a rift has opened up under your small Indiana town where an evil slimy monster came and grabbed your son.
Which is always possible.
It's always possible, as we have seen.
Keep your eyes open.
Keep your eyes open. Keep your children close.
I gotta be like my dad. It happened just the other day. In Buffalo.
It happened just the other day in Buffalo. I was there.
I saw it happen. But this is one of many examples of Joyce. I don't think it happens in this episode, but her there's a scene where her phone gets fried. She has to buy a new one. And the new one that she buys doesn't go all the way to her chair that she wanted to sit in. It kind of gets taut and stuck. And I thought it was so interesting. She grabs the chair and she pulls it up to right next to where the phone is. And I think that's just a little thing that they didn't have to have. That just is another thing that shows who she is as a character.
She will sit.
Exactly. But it's just a little thing where it's a silly thing that they definitely didn't need to keep. The chair could have already been there. You know what I mean? It was just a little thing where I was like, oh my God, nothing is going to stop her. There is no obstacle she cannot overcome, even though this one is very insignificant, obviously. But it's just kind of the start of that. And obviously this builds into the obstacle that she needs to overcome is everyone thinking she's insane, which is a very hard obstacle to overcome for sure.
Right, because like, not to be a spoiler alert for future episodes, but even when people have decided that things are said and done and they're done looking for Will, she says, that is not my son.
Exactly.
That is not my boy, and I would know.
Right.
I'm mommy. And she is.
And she is. And she is right.
Your mom.
I just watched that scene today.
Classic.
Funny.
If you know, you know.
And I don't know, did you have anything else to say about that scene?
No, I mean, I never really thought about it like that. And I think that you make a really interesting point. I think it actually does say a lot about her character.
I'm gonna blush.
I know. It's okay. It's okay, girl. And you're right.
Okay, so moving on to the next scene. They show Brenner and his boys suiting up to get into the basement. Did you not like the way I said that, or what?
You are like Papa.
So Brenner, our evil scientist man, who is the head of the Hawkins Laboratories. Is that what it's
Hawkins
called?
Laboratory.
Okay,
yeah.
okay. I don't know why I totally blanked. They suit up and they go down into this basement that we initially opened on. And what I loved about this like really quick scene is that I love the use of flashlights. First of all, I love that as like their singular use of lighting. It's always so cool. And I think that the idea to put the floaty thingies, you know, the floaty dust particle thingies, it's so beautiful and it works so well. Yeah. It just like does that much more for like making you feel like you're in a different place, someplace poisonous, someplace scary. And you know, on top of that, everything's dark and there's monster noises happening, but you know, the dust.
The dust.
The dust helps.
And I do have something to say about this. So, in the original script, when we get back down into our dirty, scary basement, it's actually really underwhelming, which is not something the script does often in comparison to the show.
Agreed.
In the script, we come upon the entry point into the rift or the upside down where the Demogorgon has emerged from, essentially. Mm-hmm. And in the script, it's just a metal door frame. It's just a metal door frame with a white light behind it. How effing boring is that? That is totally uneventful, uninteresting. And in the show, we get this disgusting, gnarly, pulsing rift in the earth.
Yeah, it's very clear. Yeah.
It's awesome.
It's pretty
gnarly.
Awesome. And what's lovely about Stranger Things is, you know, that was a mix of practical and visual effects.
Yeah.
And like I said, there's a lot of references from 80s movies. They also used a lot of techniques from 80s movies for their practical effects. Specifically, again, getting ahead of myself, but whatever. There's a scene where there's a monster coming out of the wall. Okay.
Right.
This is heavily inspired by a scene, I believe, in Friday the 13th, where Freddy Krueger is clawing his way out of a wall. And I believe they use latex and silicone, something like that, to achieve that effect. And I believe they tried this on set. I do not remember if it was successful or not. They might have had to have some help with some visual effects.
But CGI never hurt nobody.
No, but I do think that they kind of stuck to this like practical kind of vibe, and I really love it, and it just makes it so much more like awesome.
I agree, and I think specifically like with this like entry point and then later the Demogorgon in full that we end up seeing, it's really this like alien-esque vibe where it's like just these like nasty little practical effects, and it's gorgeous. It really makes a difference, especially in our day and age where we have such awesome VFX artists that can take a practical
Mm-hmm.
to the next level with computer imaging
Agreed.
instead of relying solely on computer imaging and then everything is flat and boring and the
Right.
stakes are low.
Boo.
Boo.
Boo. Tomato. Tomato. Less people employed too.
Right.
So we cut to, I believe, unless you have another, I think, according to my notes, we cut to a scene in the classroom with the boys, I believe. Unless I think before that they do get into the school and then they get bullied.
They do get bullied.
Yeah.
It's very sad.
It is sad. It's sad and racist and yeah.
Oh, yes. And I will say that the bullies, from the viewer's perspective, the bullies seem kind of low stakes, I think, because you're like, your friend is missing because a monster ate him or something.
Right.
That's crazy. But you have to remind yourself that they don't know that. And
They're
so
12.
They're 12. Their day-to-day stakes, though, do rely on these 14-year-old assholes.
Yes.
Like, for lack of better words.
Yes.
These guys suck.
They suck bad.
And the stakes do get raised with them later in the series.
Yes, it's clear that they have the ability to become very physical, and that's where it gets scary. And that's not even made clear that much later. I'm pretty sure he pushes Mike onto the ground and he cuts his chin on a rock in like episode 2 or 3.
Yeah, which is wild.
Which is crazy. But I mean, I heard 80s bullies were really crazy. This is what I've heard. I wasn't there, but I've heard.
Oh.
I've heard things.
I don't even know if I want to know.
No, you don't.
But truly, I think it is also an important plot point, again, in showing us and not telling us kind of where these main group of boys we're following fall on the social hierarchy, which is important to how the rest of the characters get treated, as Will is missing. Because nobody gives a gaff.
That's true.
Nobody cares that this boy is missing because he's from a poor family.
Yep. And that's about it.
And you know what? Yeah, like honestly, in the 80s in a small town, like that's enough. Like they're dorks.
Speaking of dorks.
Our
intro to the dorkiest dork, well, before Bob, rest in peace. Mr. Clark.
Mr. Clark.
Lovely side character. Again, side character with intention. He is so useful multiple times throughout this series. Not even just this season.
I agree. I will say that there is only one difference about Mr. Clark in the original script, and that it is that he is supposed to be sexy.
Yeah.
The original script has the students fawning over how good looking
I remember
and
that.
charming this man is. And then in the show, he is just your average balding nerd, which is fine.
I think he's still cutie though. He's still very cute.
I love him.
Yeah, and nobody cares except the boys about what he's saying.
Yeah.
Which is your average middle school science classroom.
Oh.
Just saying. I'm just saying.
I can't agree with that.
That half people are not paying attention to what the science teacher is saying. Don't get me wrong, I was one of the boys in the front at attention, okay? But I'm just saying.
I believe you.
Most people did not. Okay, anyways, so we need to talk about the flashbacks in this show. At least for specifically Will and Joyce, because there are only in the first season, I think 2 or 3. Which is great because they could have done so much more, but they kept it minimal and they established this mother-son relationship without the son being there, which I think is kind of extraordinary.
Right.
Like, he's not there. And they just kind of like, you know what the vibe is with their relationship without him even being there, which I think is so smart. And I just appreciate it because they could have overdone it and they didn't.
Right. And in the original script, I may be wrong, but I don't remember that being a part of it. And so you do feel really disconnected from Joyce when you're just like, I get that she works a lot because she has to, but she also is kind of a lot.
Yeah.
And seems to only care about her kids once Will is missing. That's kind of how it feels in the script, if I remember correctly.
But Winona Ryder, she really transformed the character. I'm on season 2, and her performance is jaw-dropping, to be honest, of like a concerned mother, to the point where it distresses you.
Right.
Which is just insane. She's just so talented. And this was my introduction to Winona Ryder.
Really?
I had not seen her in anything else before. So this was kind of like, okay. And apparently, and this was kind of her comeback as well. She had not been in any that much between. There was a certain time period where no one would hire her, I believe, but I do not know the details of this. But I hadn't seen like Beetlejuice before or Girl Interrupted. I have now, but I hadn't before. So this was a wonderful introduction to Winona Ryder. But moving on to our favorite, no, not our favorite character, but another one, another character introduction. 11.
11's character introduction is
pretty genius, pretty awesome.
Very well done.
Just a bald girl in the woods. Hey, what's going on?
Hey, bald girl in the woods, what are you doing
here? She doesn't say a word. And she doesn't, for the most of the season, she still doesn't say a word, by the way.
She doesn't have to.
No, she doesn't. And I love that a lot. Too. I mean, and it's also completely accurate that children who are extraordinarily traumatized, as she was, do not speak very much. It's just an extraordinary effort. But I think this intro was genius. She walks into this diner and immediately picks up a pile of fries. Oh wait, no, she does. She just picks up one fry, takes a bite, realizes the best thing she's ever tasted, and then picks up the whole pile and eats it like an apple.
And she does.
Which is a crazy watch.
It is. And actually, in the original script, she picks up a raw fish out of the fridge.
Yeah.
And goes to town on that thing like it's a Taco Bell burrito.
Yeah, they would not have had a 12-year-old doing that.
No, it's disgusting.
That's frankly, some sort of violation.
But she is so starving.
Yeah.
And desperate, and probably has never really seen a raw fish in her life.
No, and I do think that the fries were a much better choice for many reasons, but she would have one taste of that, and obviously she would want more. She would taste the raw fish, and she'd be like, ew.
She'd be like, patooey.
Yeah, even with that nasty lab food she was probably eating.
Yeah, that gruel from the lab. The gruel from the lab.
Gruel reference.
Well, and exactly, because I feel like when you get a Wendy's fry in front of me, no, Chick-fil-A, you get a Chick-fil-A fry in front of my face.
And you haven't been eating lab food. You had Chick-fil-A just the other week.
I did.
And you would eat it like an apple.
And I would.
And I respect that. But moving on, we go into this scene where obviously she gets in trouble. She's in the back of the kitchen, whatever. We're introduced to Benny, another wonderful side character. And he's kind of asking her questions. She's giving very minimal answers. The first word she says is no. And the first word she says is no is to Mike as well. And it's only when like a significant boundary is crossed with her, I think, or she deems it completely necessary. Like Benny threatens to take away her food and Mike tries to close the door on her and she's extremely claustrophobic. But she says no. That's her first word to him. And then we kind of see Benny get up and walk away. And we immediately kind of realize that this girl is much weirder than she already was, just walking around in a hospital gown with a shaved head in the forest, because we see her like stare real hard at a fan that's getting really noisy and is very annoying. And it stops. And it's very clear that she is the one who did that. And this was just a very simple way of, again, doing this wonderful showing and not telling that she has superpowers. It was very clearly done by her And the sound design is also lovely in this scene with the way the sound of the fan gets louder and louder and becomes kind of overwhelming until she stops it, which makes her stopping it that much more dramatic and kind of impactful. But just a lovely, lovely scene. No notes.
No notes.
Duffer Brothers, no notes.
On this one.
On this one. I have some notes, but not on this one. Okay. So moving on. Will is officially missing. There's like, it's starting to get serious. They're realizing that Winona isn't just some crazy mom. And she actually is for real. She's very serious about he is missing. So Hopper finds Will's bike in the woods, left abandoned. And this is a big deal. He says, and I quote, "This bike is like a Cadillac to these kids. He would never leave it behind." So that's when we start, he actually starts to realize that this is like, there's something going on. And he goes back to the buyer's house, Joyce's house, Will's house, whatever. He goes back into the house and we start to realize that he is good at his job. And that is the first time you realize, because you don't expect that because, our introduction to him.
Right.
But he figured out that Will did come home, because he did. Yeah. And he sees like this hole in the wall and he's like, has this always been there? This kind of thing. And he even tracks Will's moves all the way to the shed just by a little investigation. Like he kind of concurs this. And so like, I just think it was like a lovely turning point where you start to kind of admire his character and you just kind of grow in admiration for him for sure throughout the series. But this was kind of the point where you were like, oh, like this guy is a good guy. He's like actually helping out. And then we get to the scene in the shed, which we both love a lot. Very well done.
I love the scene in the shed. Like you talked about earlier, it kind of shows, like you said earlier, it shows off Will's capableness.
Mm-hmm.
His capability of doing scary grown-up things and surviving.
Yes.
But also, I love this because we have this moment with Hopper in the shed that is exasperated a little bit more.
That's our false sense of suspense.
Right.
Classic horror movie vibe. Love.
And my question for this is, and I brought this up when we watched it, do we think that Hopper kind of entered this middle area between reality and the upside down? Because the lights do flicker, and at least in the script, his ear starts bleeding.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Right.
That's interesting. Yeah, he they definitely do a wonderful job kind of building this suspense with camera angles particularly. It feels like something's kind of watching him, and also sound design. Because it kind of like picks up and keeps picking up until he's interrupted. And we get our false jump scare, which is just another deputy walking in on him, and it scares the crap out of him bad.
Yeah.
But the scene is just like really awesome. Just because it does like take him to this in-between world, which we never really revisit again. There are some inconsistencies in the first episode, but that's okay because it's the first episode. Some pilots are a little janky. This was a great pilot. I'm not saying that, but this one there's some inconsistencies for sure.
Absolutely. But I will contradict you a little, and I will say that I feel like Joyce a couple times enters this in-between space where later in the series, she is kind of able to interact with Will even though they are in separate dimensions.
Yeah, it was this thing that I was thinking of the more I watch it, where I'm like, is it like a corny thing like only love will get you through to the upside down?
Love will prevail.
Because, like Jonathan, Jonathan sees these lights flicker at one point, and they're like dealing with a monster, and they think it's the monster, but Jonathan realizes that it's his mom. And there's no indication of that besides the lights flickering, and they're not sure what it is. And somehow he can tell it's his mother. which maybe it is that corny thing of like love breaks through the barriers of like dimensions and whatever. But I just think it's interesting that it's like recognizable between loved ones if they're in separate dimensions but kind of in the same place.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I don't know. Again, I don't know if they really kind of keep going with that after season 1, but
I don't think so.
yeah, but that's kind of like what I concluded, at least after watching season 1. So we get to after the scene in the shed, this is the first time one of the deputies says, "Do you think we have a problem here, Chief?"
Oh my. They're literally
so annoying.
You didn't think there was a problem when you said this bike is like a Cadillac to these kids, he wouldn't have left it behind.
But now
there's a problem.
I don't know. It's just because Hopper told him to get a search party together.
True. Because Hopper's actually taking things seriously, and so I think the deputies are like, oh shit.
Right.
Like if Hopper, who is high on pills, is
and drunk.
locking in and drunk,
yes,
is locking in, then we should probably lock in. There's probably an issue here.
Yeah.
And I understand kind of where that apathy comes from because they say more than once that nothing ever happens in this town. That the most interesting thing to ever happen in the last however many years is a bird trying to nest in Mrs. Gillespie's hair.
Right, Eleanor Gillespie's hair. Because an owl tried to attack her because he thought her hair was a nest.
He thought her hair was a nest. In the script, they take it one step further and say something about how it was about to lay an egg right before they got to her. That's hilarious. I don't know why they cut that.
That's so funny. Okay, so we cut to the scene in the woods. Right. I love this scene. It's gorgeous. It's perfectly lit. It's beautiful. There's these silhouettes, and this is probably one of my favorite scenes, like visually in the first episode, just because of like the funky lighting and also like the scenery is beautiful. But we also in this scene have an introduction to Hopper's daughter. We learn that her name is Sara, and he talks about her in the present tense. What we don't know at the time when he's talking about this is that Sara has unfortunately passed away.
Right.
And it's just so much sadder that he talks about her in the present tense. That like touch of like, and he's talking to Mr. Clark about her, and he just says, oh, she's in the city, you wouldn't have her as a student, that kind of thing. Like you never see her.
Right.
Instead of he just has not confronted that yet, and he's still in this like really sad place. And that kind of, you start kind of putting the pieces together as to why there is alcohol and drugs all over his apartment. I just think the Duffer Brothers references, my gosh, I love them every time.
Glorious.
They're amazing.
It's glorious. I found this YouTube video, which was an interview with the Duffer Brothers where they break down like every reference in season 1. And I'm watching this and I'm just like, there's no way this is every reference in season 1. I feel like every other action line is a reference to something, and it's gorgeous. You can tell that these people are just a master of their craft, and they truly just appreciate
nerds
storytelling
in the best way.
Yeah,
like as you should be when you're going into something like this. To be honest, I watched that same video, and they are so intelligent. There's so much information going on up in their heads. I could not imagine.
No.
They have watched so many movies.
Oh my gosh.
It's actually insane.
Yeah.
But okay, we're running out of time. So I am going to cut to our last scene.
Let's do it.
The only thing I had to say about this is it's raining.
It is raining.
It is raining. As we talked about before, they say it in the weather forecast in the beginning. Mm-hmm. It's a rainy night. The boys are out looking for Will in the forest where he was initially lost. And I just noticed, this is like a film kid thing. I noticed there's moonlight peeking through the trees.
Right.
And I was like, it's raining. That's weird. And that's honestly something only maybe a film student would notice, I would say, or somebody who is well practiced in this area.
Right. I agree.
Because they had so much trust in the story. And I think that we kind of need more of that in our like, you know, practices in our student films and stuff. Because you always go for this like practicality of like, oh, the audience would notice that. But like they didn't.
Right.
They didn't. Nobody noticed that. They just were like, oh, look, pretty. It's night.
Right.
That's
exactly.
it. There's nothing else. And that was kind of like inspiring to me almost, where I was like, okay, you know what? I can just make it look pretty. It doesn't necessarily have to be real all the time.
You can. And a part of that is about consistency. That's something they do from the beginning. Not every frame is going to totally make sense as far as light source or even narratively.
Yep.
But once you put everything together and you put it in front of a general Netflix audience, they are going to be able to consume this story for what it is.
They're eating it up. No crumbs.
No crumbs. They love it.
They love this series. But yeah, that episode ends on a cliffhanger, obviously, because we gotta keep the audience from watching.
Every episode leaves off on these amazing cliffhangers.
Yes. So they find 11 in the woods, in the rain, and scary bald girl at their same age.
Dun, dun,
scary.
Dun.
But this episode is definitely like a masterpiece.
No, for sure.
Low key. We are talking about it for a reason. It's really well done. And there is a lot to say about it, even more than we discussed. We actually had to cut some things out because we have so much to say.
We've been here a while.
Y'all would get bored, low key. No, high key.
Actually,
key.
yes.
Yes. But yeah.
Overall, I just have to say that the Duffer brothers are truly a master of their craft. This is a great show, a great series. And the Montauk script, if you care at all about Stranger Things or you're just interested in dramatic writing or what a good script looks like, Montauk is a really good reference to have in your back pocket.
And with that, thanks for watching
and listening.
This has been Room Tone with Raine
and Sarah.
We will see you next week. Bye.
Cut.